Okay. I think that this is working. Yes. Okay, it is working. I can see a change in the signal. So at least that's my best bet. Let me check here. It's a new video. Needed a new intro. Just realized I wasn't sharing the system audio. Okay, now it's audible. Okay. Anyway, trying to figure out which game this one is. Okay, that's right. So I wanted to add bone collection when I'm converting ducks into explosions. So there's a load program button. Let's just minimize this one. Make things a little smaller. This can be smaller too. And then open the collision engine. That's where the collision stuff happens. There's a bunch of junk there. But when there is a collision, it's going to turn its opacity to 0. And it's also going to change it into this little explosion mark here. So at that time, I want to add a bone. Let's go to the higher level fragments. Let me see here. I think there was a bone. There's the view bone count. That's not what I wanted. I have to check. Scan through it manually. This is terrible. Spawn X elements. Multi-menu, collision, view bone count, key control element. Collect bones. Oh, it would have to be the word bones, not bone. It's a very bad, very specific search engine. Okay, so we're gonna look at the bones value. We're gonna add 1 to it, and it lasts forever. Okay, should be all good there. Let's check something here. Let's collect some bones. Let's get back to the game. Back to the game. What is it referencing? It's definitely not the walking. Oh my. Somehow it has changed the file that I was saving in. There's a bug that's been observed here. And so it's, manipulating a different program. I don't know how that even happens. I need to figure that out. Let's see what happens when we run URL primer. Oh god. Okay, so it thinks that this is what walking is now. So I have to basically can take this as an opportunity to improve upon what I was doing. So on the main page, I can navigate to different programs, and I want to build a sort of generic program that would allow you to make a bunch of different types. So what would be the best? I mean, this is a pretty nice. Let me check this one on my phone really quick and see how this feels on that format, because that's another component to it. Boop, boop, boop. Just gonna log in. Hopefully this doesn't also break it, because I'm logging in the same account in 2 different platforms. I have no idea. Seems to be doing just fine. Okay. Okay. Let's see. About to test it. Okay. I need to make the get back into the game not draggable. That would be one thing to do. Let's remove that. Boop. Saving it. Okay, let me just reload this whole thing here. Oh. Okay, just testing to see how. Well, it's not. It's got some odd things about the dragging, sort of. Oh, is the background itself draggable? No. Okay, so the window is actually larger than, so even without scroll bars on mobile, if you drag, it will expand to different portions of the screen. Good to know. It doesn't work like that on, on here. So I guess what I need to do is, let's see if I remove the scroll bars. Maybe that's the thing I need to do here, if I'm not already doing that. Looks like I'm not. Remove scroll bars. I think this will make it work a lot better. First of all, this should go away. Okay, no more scroll bars. That's great. Let me reload this on my phone, see how this looks. Just getting through my massive list of programs. Okay, yes, now it is amazing. All right. Okay, so looks really good on mobile as well. Looks actually way better. The mage emoji is like a lot cooler. And so in this particular design here, I interact with an element, and then when that element, right now it will explode, but it could be that each one of those is some kind of dynamic thing, and so it triggers a new iframe, to come into existence, and that that iframe can manipulate the cookie memory as well, and so you basically can have this isolated program. You can sort of develop a little creature that you can throw into here, and just all it needs to do is modify certain portions of memory, and it can fully exist within this environment and be pretty seamlessly integrated. All I need to do is know the link associated with it. So the hope is that, like, by doing that, I can create a very complex environment here where all kinds of stuff can happen, and all people need to do is like develop, a couple small pieces of logic, and you can make it as complex as you want, but like also it should be very simple to be able to make your own enemy that I'm going to fight against. I wouldn't call them any kind of monster or something that could like fit inside of your pocket, but like they will be enemies that you can make, and they can battle inside of this environment. So and I'll make some templates, so it'll be pretty simple to make generic ones which require no knowledge at all of anything. All you need to do is change like 2 fields and you can make your own custom thing. But so right now, they all just kind of spawn and go crazy or whatnot. So instead, what I think I'll do is make them all kind of spawn in random locations, and then and so the trees here, these can be like different types of decoration or whatever in the background, for now. So they're all kind of nestled down there at the bottom. So let's see here. That's under spawn X elements. The projectile launcher is the mage, which I can change, the image of that. It can be inherited. So here we have, actually, let's check the complex parts here to see what kind of things we got here. So we have load program, crawler, splash screen, menu, phone count, smart menu, user visit counter. Okay. So for now, it's just the mage, but all of these different units here, they're under spawn X elements. So right now it makes 150 of them. They all spawn at the bottom, and there's like, these complex locations. They basically just spawn all around the trees and whatnot. So I still want them to have kind of a random distribution for now, but I think I'm going to have it be like, 0 and 90, and then this will be 0, 90, and then drop this down to like 10. So first, let's see what happens there. Okay, so I have my trees are now randomly distributed. And then I have the ducks here, and the ducks, they have a confined range in which they're starting. We're going to make that now 0 and 90. And then okay, so I'm going to remove its animation for now. And just delete this part for the timing. Okay, so the ducks are all randomly distributed now. And yes, okay, I can still collide with them. All right. But I don't collide with the trees, so the trees are still the background. So now, what I want to do is basically, instead of them being ducks, they'll be, I guess, so right now they're divs, and if I make them individual programs, they wouldn't necessarily have control over their position. Now, I could control their position by storing information inside of the cookies and reading it from the walking program. That's one possibility. So yeah, I'll have to think on that. But I think what I should just start by doing is basically replace these with, instead of divs, make them iframes, get these as programs, and then from there, then I can start building in the framework to allow people to customize them. So, and there's obviously going to be some complexity to all of it, but it'll be resolved. So let's take this, instead of make element here, it's going to be an iframe. And then I'm just going to try and copy the whole style. Just be like, just take that whole style right there. Delete the original one. Oop. The ID. Let's just copy the ID. Oop. Like that. Then this text data. Get out of here. I need to update the iframe because it should have source in it. The fact that it doesn't, and I have to add this in here, is absolutely despicable. Okay, there we go. Take that, delete that. Then here we have the iframe, the source, and I don't even know what this is. Is this the star? Okay, I think it's a star, something like that. These are deleted. Boom. Goodbye. Div. Don't. Okay, wait. I can see small modulations on the thing there. So I think it's working. Hopefully audio is holding throughout. So back to the game here. And then yeah, so these iframes here, this should not say div. I don't know what is going on here. It should say iframe. Let's see, I should probably fix that. Okay, amazing. Yes, it's so good. Hang on, let me, I know there's a lot of stuff in here, but I just need to get this in there. Iframe. Taking a moment here as it uploads. So we have our little boxes. Each one of them is a unique program. So the boxes themselves are isolated from the upper program. So like the program where the mage exists is isolated from these boxes. The boxes can display content and they can write to cookie memory. And so if my mage level program is reading cookie memory, then these two levels, can be communicating with one another, which is the ideal scenario. And then if that's happening, then the upper level can use information about what's happening to the memory, and then it can actually move these boxes. So like the boxes can still move around. They just have to move under the authority of the upper level. So like they can manipulate memory, and then based upon how they manipulate memory, the upper level will then say, here's how you're going to move. So there's always a higher level of control that will exist, which is, I think, extremely beneficial. It allows for all kinds of different functionality to exist that previously would have been really hard to do. They're also draggable right now. I'm sure this would be a problem on mobile because I have not fixed the bug to make multiple things draggable. My person is draggable. And they, oh yeah. And so right now, if you hit them, they just die. They just fade out. They're like, but when you collide with them, you could actually write to the memory, and then if inside of that program, it's checking the memory, and then it says, oh, someone's done this, then it can react to that as well. And so you can build in a whole set of dynamics, sort of by having a communication protocol pre-established. And the objective is that you never have to actually understand the communication protocol. Because that's the worst part of anything. So let's get back to the game here. Oh, hang on. Let me just save this. Okay. All right. Just wanted to figure out what was going on there. Kind of odd. Um, so we have all these little programs here. We can interact with them. And we need just some basic rule set. So right now, if I hit them, they just die. It'd be nice if if I hit them, I can save into the memory, say, activate your, death animation. And so then, your death animation happens. So at a minimum, you have your default state and then your death animation. I think it's a good starting point. Once I can do that, then everything else should be, pretty straightforward. So yeah, right now they have no authority. Nothing can be done. So what we're gonna do here is when collision happens, so let's just minimize this whole thing. We're gonna just say that this is first save changes. So minimize the spawn next elements here. We have the load program button. Gonna minimize that too. Then we have the collision engine. Let's go into there. Okay, so right now when we kill one of these things, we get a bone. And collecting bones was my initial intent. However, now I want an even deeper level of functionality and communication. I'll get back to collecting bones at some point. So when the collision happens, right now it will change it to this little explosion. I guess, oh yeah, so the explosion, modify this element here. This is the one it's going to modify. It's going to set the opacity to 0. Text data being set to this doesn't matter anymore because it has a source, so it's not going to just put text data on top of it. As far as I know, that seems to be why it's happening. So it's just going to make it disappear. So instead of doing that, what I want to do is I can just modify this right here. So there's a variable, and I'm gonna make a variable called bones, and oh, some notification on my computer. So let's say that I want to communicate with this program. I want to send it, some information in the cookies, and so it needs to have some way of knowing that I'm talking to it versus any other programs. There has to be some kind of generalized way in which I can address this other program. So I want to hard code them. Oh, so if I could initially hard code them similar to how I had done in the past. There's just a bunch of programs that are being automatically populated here. And then Otherwise, if there's a primer, then I, just use that particular value. So if I can choose the program, then I can specify that I'm going to have a certain program take up like this particular spot. And I'm saying, um, this program has this URL. And then within this program, it's going to try and be communicating with the outside world. But how does it know its own address? It's an isolated thing here. So it has access to the cookie memory. And so when it is first spawned, the very top address. So I can basically, before I create it, I can save into the memory and say, this is the new, memory slot. And when a new program comes into existence, it's going to check the cookie memory. It's going to say, is there what is the top memory slot right now? And it will inherit that and say, this is my memory slot. So so long as I first declare a new memory slot and then I run the program, it will inherit the top one, which would be a unique ID, and then would allow me to communicate back and forth seamlessly. So I think that's probably the best way to do it, to have just an automatic protocol like that in existence. So that way I don't have to worry about any of that nonsense there. So here, when I go to spawn them, so I spawn in all of these things here, spawn X elements. I'm going to need to create a smart spawner. So I have 10 elements here, and they're going to be all these different programs. Right now, it's a whole bunch of the same program. Let me see. Yeah, it's just whatever this website is. I'm not exactly sure. But so, and then they all have their collisions. Now, instead of loading this website, it's going to need to load one that is stored in memory. But more importantly, I also need to register it and say, store some new information in here. So inside of the cookies, I need to create some kind of marker. And so I'm making the iframe here. I'm also making the trees. So at the same time, I need to save to memory. All right, so this is going to be okay. So all right, I need to first load from memory a count of the number of memory slots that are in existence. Which I guess if I just have that anyway, that's going to be sufficient. So first that's saved in memory there. I actually want to first have create a variable. I might actually already be doing this down here somewhere. That's fine, I'll just do it. Okay, make a variable. Then variable. Okay, and then I'm going to call this let's see, URL slot. Yep. And then this is going to be like this. Like this. And then this is going to be from memory. All right, so basically I'm going to check and see if there is anything that is currently taking up the URL slot. And if there is, then I'm going to, completely go above that one. So I'm going to say if slot 8 has been taken, now I'm referring to slot 9. And all I need to do is basically keep track of the slots that I register. It doesn't matter that it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just matters that I know what the name is and that the program knows what the name is. So it'll start off at 0, and we're going to make a variable called URL slot, and the ID is going to be URL slot. And if there is nothing there, it's going to be 0. And then what it's going to do, it's going to say, I'm taking this slot. So I'm going to add 1 to that. And so it's going to save to memory. And what it's going to do is the memory ID is going to be URL slot. And the value is going to be this variable here, references variable. Okay, and then it's going to be URL slot once again. And then this is going to be +1 value. Okay. Okay, so make value here. Yeah, so I think that one of the things might be that when memory comes out, it might be a string. So that might be one of the problems here. And we'll see. See what happens. Okay, so took that, added 1 to it. Okay, so, and then it's saving it to the memory. So now when it saved that to the memory, this program needs to inherit that. And so basically at the beginning of the program, it needs to check and see what the new slot is. And it's going to say, this is my ID. And then once it knows its ID, then it can say, it's like it's sitting there and it's going to receive some kind of generalized input. So the input's going to be, you can think of it almost from like a Dungeons and Dragons perspective, but it's obviously a lot wider of a range. But if you're just thinking about it from like a little game perspective, then it would be you could take damage in different categories. Maybe you could have damage, lightning damage, fire damage, whatever, all your different variants. So you have all these different inputs, and then on your character side, all you're doing is basically saying, here's how I react based upon the inputs that you give me. So like if you had some kind of water creature, like a turtle, like a blue turtle that squirted water out, and the way how you want this character to behave is that when it receives, electrical damage, that's not that it doesn't feel good on it, and then it's really good against like fire. Um, and if like that's the kind of mechanic that you want, then basically you would say, when I receive these different types of inputs, here's how I respond. Um, and then you would respond by writing that into the cookie memory of your ID. And then this outer program is going to say, oh yeah, here's the one that I'm talking to. And all you should really need to worry about is basically, the mechanics of how you handle different inputs. So you basically have this input spectrum, like all this different stuff that's going to happen that you can read from the cookie memory. And you can say, here's what's happening around me. And then you can send a response on this one line. And I mean, I guess theoretically you can manipulate the cookie memory however you want. So even these little tiny programs, if they manipulate the cookie memory enough, it could alter, depending upon how sensitive this program is to the cookie memory. Small program could cause massive reverberations in this program, which could alter, dynamics between programs, which could have, amazing interplay. I don't even know what kind of things might be unleashed as a result of it. You can. So we're saving this to the memory here. Now inside of the program, so right now I'm just loading in this default thing. I know it's getting kind of late here, so I need to start, wrapping stuff up here. Going back to the main web page, then we have the animal primer, the URL primer. I just need, some particular thing that I want to go inside of here. I'm going to make a basic, just a fresh new thing. I got a lot of other stuff that I made. Later on, can do something with that. What I want this to be is monster template. Actually, character template. Better terminology. Okay, viewing here. Boom. So this thing is going to be inside one of those boxes, and it's going to, have some interaction with the environment. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to first, we're going to go complex parts. And then I'm going to do run. I'm not going to set a background on it. I don't know if that's going to make it transparent or what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure it has a box around it. There's probably ways to get rid of all that stuff, but later on. So what I want to do is just make like initially, let's just do basic functionality here. I'm just going to make a little emoji thing inside of there. And I'm going to do some kind of communication back and forth and just have it do a basic, death animation or something like that, and just get the communication working. So here we have the basic functionality, and we're going to make an element. Make an element. Okay, boom. Making the element. Then making this a div. make it not draggable. I want it to be basically 100%, 100%, 100%. Okay. Then font size here. Font size. And I'm going to try and make it like 90 view width. It depends upon what system you're on, you know, or like what display. 90 view width in a landscape, you know, is different than 90 view width in a portrait. In a portrait, 90 view width, you know, it's gonna look different. But regardless, I think I'm displaying it as a square, so that helps a lot. And then for my text data here, I'm gonna just make it like, you know, emoji HTML code. Let's see if I can find anything here to start with. Yeah, so let's start with the rocket. Just to get things started here. Let's see. Oh, awesome. So this needs to be a little bit smaller. Okay, and then I need to also remove the scroll bars. Okay, it's not in here. Okay, great. So first, save that, go here, let's copy character template, share this, got that. Let's go into walking, assuming that everything is working here. We're creating these iframes. Here's the source, and this just needs to be, instead of just shared, needs to be shared frame. Oh. Let's see, are these little rockets? Oh, they are rockets now. Okay, awesome. Now, so they're still just disappearing when I collide with them. But let's see here. Let's just verify what's going on. So first, let's save. It's now 10:30. Need to start wrapping it up here. So um, okay, so we're gonna make a variable. It's gonna be called the URL slot. This actually needs to be done before that thing is created. That needs to be like the top. Okay, so we have the iframe. All right, so before the iframe gets created, it's going to save this in here. It's going to look for URL slot. So let's just copy this. All right, so I got that URL slot there. Then save the changes. That is looking amazing over there. I love it. Now, here under my character template, I need to basically Actually, I think if I um, do, there's like view bone count. So this is basically, it's going to make a variable, and let's call this one uh, ID, or character ID. Character ID. And so it is basically going to reference a memory value, and that memory value is going to be URL slot, um, and whatever that number is, that's going to be its ID. So this will be URL slot, and otherwise it's going to assume that it has a value 0, which is probably gonna, just, this is what it will do if there's, if it just has a value of 0. And so um, once it knows its ID, then there's going to be a communication protocol that is set up for all programs that have this particular ID. So this is its URL slot, and then let's see, all this other stuff here. View bone count. I don't really care about all the rest of this. Let me just delete this here. And what this is going to be is we're going to create a new one here, and instead of make bone count, this is going to be uh, read, or it's basically get ID from memory. So get the ID of this program in the from memory. This is basically the it's what all the ghosts and the angels, they're all sitting around looking at human beings who are just programs that are running, inside of their environment, and they're like, this is what your name is. And that's what this is right here. This is basically your identity in the upper realm, in which the upper realm commands you entirely, and like you have to listen to it. And you can like say things, but then it says, here's what happens to you. And then you say, okay, here's what happens to me. So that's what this ID is here. It's, the ID from memory. So, yeah, I think that this is a fine thing here. So basically what's going to happen here is, let's see if I search ID, if that works. Yes, great. Awesome. Okay, so now what I can do is basically I can look at the URL slot, and whatever that value is, I'm going to say, that's my ID. And then I know, and then if I have communication that, automatically knows its pathway to go into, and it can encode that, then the whole, communication protocol has been completely handled. And then enables one program to be subordinate to a higher level program, and also have the two be interacting with one another, but not requiring the complexity of worrying about the higher level program. Instead, you can just focus on your little program and like how your little program, how it reacts to things. Um, and obviously within this game environment, it has certain value, but in tons of other programming scenarios, it'll be really useful too. But so it says, okay, here's my ID. And then what it's going to do is it's going to create its picture, and then it's going to have some kind of like timer that's going to occur regularly. So this will be, maybe I want to go here, and then I don't know if under, where it would be at. Um, maybe within complex parts. Let me see here. Background, element spawner. Okay. Should be something here that would be a good starting point. Smart menu. Okay. So I think probably the best one is going to be, okay, spawn elements periodically. Yeah, this is going to have like a loop, and it, does things, stuff like that. So that'll be fine. I can delete most of the stuff from it, but at least it's already all integrated here. So doesn't matter what the name of this is here. Let's just go boop and delete all that. Okay. So now we have this timer here. It's under complex parts, and we can set different things here. So if so, we need to also now pull memory states. So we're going to need to, we say, okay, this is my save slot, and now I need to know certain bits of information, like have I, has a collision happened with me, for example? All kinds of different states. And then when I have all these different states, then I can say, here's what I'm going to do in response to that. But starting off, we're going to have just one. Well, actually, this one is, so the spawn rate here, I'll update the name on it. Heartbeat. So basically, every 500 milliseconds, it does poof, poof. Okay. And then this is going to be life cycle. And then it's basically just a bunch of if else's. So, if, so this is action is true, action is false. And up here, we basically load in the different types of variables. So we have another make variable here. Actually, let's just do this, duplicate that. Okay, so the ID of this one is going to be, we can just call it the state for now. Call it state. And then what it's going to do is it's going to draw this memory, this value from memory. So it's going to be memory here, get a value from memory. And then for this, it's going to be state, and then presumably character ID. Just state and then that value. That's kind of my hope here. I guess I could do URL state. So I need to actually do concatenate strings. String. Okay, so this is going to be URL state. And then this is going to be variable, the reference variable. And it's going to be character ID. Okay, so we have that URL state, and then otherwise it's going to be 0. And then once we have the state here, the external program can control the state. And by the external program controlling the state, that can cause this thing to do different things. So, you know, I could like check its current, like when every time I have a collision, I could check its current state and then iterate up 1, for example. So that's you know, one possibility. I can start with that for now. So here it's going to start off at 0, and then what it's going to do is it's going to check the state value. So it's going to check and see item A. It's going to be a variable. And that variable is going to be state. And if the state equals 0, then it's going to, you know, thank you, headphones. Let me see, testing. Okay, that seems to be working. So if it's 0, that's just going to be what it is initially. So, you know, I guess I won't even put anything there. If it's 1, then that's where I'm going to change stuff up here. Then I'm going to, you know, modify this element here. So let's just do something pretty obvious here. Modify this element, which is called, let's not make it my div, let's call it character. And then we're going to modify the character. And the style is going to be exactly the same. And then I'm just going to delete this style here. Modify the character, the event listener style. And then I want to have the text here like this. We're going to make this an X. Okay. So, all right. So right now, every 500, you know, milliseconds, it's going to check and it's going to be saying, is the, it's going to, so here we have the memory. This actually needs to be inside of that. So this make variable here, that one is fine to stay here, but I also need to have the other one on the inside because it needs to constantly check every 500 milliseconds. It needs to be looking at the memory and saying, you know, what is the current value? All right, so we're going to delete the heartbeat from here. And we're going to delete this one from here. So the element spawner has a heartbeat, and then it's going to check the URL state for this ID. Otherwise, it's going to default to 0. And right now, if it's 0, it doesn't do anything. If it equals 1, it's going to modify it, and it's going to turn it into an X. So right now, it should just be 0 like that. Okay. Now, let's save that. And then I just want to copy this here. So this is the, memory slot here. Now, in the upper level program here, I need to have some kind of, mapping. So let's go back to the blocking here. What? Okay, something odd here. Let's see, make variable. Oh, this is probably the issue right here. Oop, I bet that needs to be like this. Maybe. Who knows, actually. How was it ever working beforehand? I have no idea. Anyway, so now when it makes them, it's going to, we make the element, so we have the URL slot, and we're going to update the URL slot. So okay. And then here we're going to make that element. Now we need to, at the same time, we need to be able to take this URL slot and then, reference it within this program. So that way when the collision happens, I can say this, collision happened between this thing and, this particular one here, and that's associated with this, URL slot. So when I'm creating them, I need to be associating them somehow. So, oh, yeah, I think I might know. Need to think a little bit more on that. Okay, so okay, as each one is being saved, I'm putting them into the pre-collision list, and then we have those go into the different collision lists. And so, do I have a dictionary fragment? Is that not a thing under variable? Okay, so I do have a dictionary. Now the question is, can I reference a dictionary? Looks like yes. Okay. Let me see what this looks like. If this isn't correct, I'm calling it a night. I should have called it a night, but I reference dictionary. Part A, part B. Yeah, I need to fix the dictionary here. But basically, I just need to store the information associated with each ID. So that way I can say, okay, this thing got into a collision. Here's what its URL address is for the cookie memory. Then when I save information into the cookie memory, this program will read that memory and it will say, oh, my state has changed, and then new functionality will happen inside that program. Once I close that gap, then I can begin working on the generalized protocol. So then, a wide range of functionalities can be passed back and forth and handled appropriately. I just need to sort of think about what the most generalized way is to do it, so that way I can avoid having to recreate it about 1,000 times. So anyway, this is the end here. I better I can pull them into their demise. Let's get can't pull my page anymore. Can't pull anything anymore. Can I even reload the game? Okay. All right. This is the end.